of depicting women is pervasive in film, mass media advertising. You can think, I mean, there's a gazillion examples, as well as painting and sculptures of the past. You can think of, you know, Venus on a half shell, for instance. That was a pretty good example of, here's a woman, here she is, all pretty to be looked at, you know. So the strategy of confronting the gaze is artists trying to challenge or confront this style of depiction to draw attention to it and then try to subvert it. So this is an example by Cindy Sherman. She's a photographer, and she did a whole series of these film stills that she created, but she's the artist, she's also the subject. So those are all, they're all self-portraits. And in every single one, like, you see how you don't see her pinky on her right hand? Because she's pushing the shutter release, so she's the one taking the picture. So she's like mixing herself up as being the object and the subject at the same time. She's just kind of trying to play with that duality and erase it. Using dissonance. This is a local artist, actually. I'm really excited that I could put his piece in this. Dissonance is a lack of harmony or agreement between elements in a work that causes tension. So clashing colors, clashing styles, clashing images, etc., that when combined create new meanings. This is a Mark Penner-Howell piece called Pink Cloud. And this little girl is exactly like what you would see in like a 1940s or 50s school book. And then she's in front of these like really 19 sort of 80s, 70s, 80s kinds of abstract lines and images. And then behind is a depiction of one of the firestorms from, I think, Iraq or Kuwait. And you get this idea of, okay, where did we come from, where did we go, and also this sort of idea of this like innocence that's what's behind it. So by combining these colors, I mean the pink and the red and this very pale pastel-y kind of thing, that doesn't go with this color scheme at all. The colors clash, the styles clash, the imagery clashes, but putting them all together you could get intertextuality, and they talk to each other and they create new meanings. So this is using dissonance on purpose to kind of break your expectation. Constructing new identities. Identity is the characteristics that define you or another person. So it can be socially determined by membership in a group according to such markers as race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. Identity politics is taking political action to advance the interest of members of a group thought to be oppressed and marginalized by virtue of a shared identity. So artists working with identity politics make art based on issues regarding race, gender, ethnicity, and social issues rather than on aesthetic appeal. They're not trying to make beautiful work. They're trying to make work that changes society. That's what their goal is. So Guerrilla Girls are a group of anonymous women artists who formed, I think, in about the 70s when feminism was really having its sort of first rise. And they persist to this day. They started by challenging art museums, saying, you know, 90% of the artwork on the walls is of women, but only 5% is by women, and trying to break that kind of bias that they perceived in the art world, structures, and the it's a word that is not going to come to my mind, so I'm just going to keep going. So these are a couple of posters. They did a lot of poster work where they would like print a whole bunch of these and then plaster them all over New York City, and actually other places now. And now they also have they published a book about trying to erase stereotypes of women, to first identify and then try to subvert those. Okay, and then another strategy is adapting literary devices to visual art, using narratives. Narrative is a representation of an event or a story. So this was practiced throughout art history until the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when artists rejected it, believing narratives were more suitable for writers than for visual artists. That's when we went into this whole art for art's sake and non-objective work and things you couldn't understand. Recently, artists have been reintroducing narratives into their work. This is a couple of pieces by Kara Walker. She's an installation artist that she uses cut black paper to create silhouettes, very much like 19th century silhouette artwork. So she's referring back to a kind of artwork that was at one time done by genteel ladies, of like portraits. They would do this. But instead, she is presenting images of racial violence and stereotyped images of slavery, again, much like some of the other works that we've seen, to try to bring up and then subvert or kind of overcome some of these societal prejudices that were in ideals. So this is I think it's a quote, and I can never quite read what it says. I used to. It's a. She has this cutout of a woman who has. I don't know if she hung herself, probably been hung, but this was a tapestry that was created that depicted the burning of a colored orphanage in 1910 in New York City. So, pretty horrific. Here's a really cool piece. This is another example of adapting literary devices to visual art, creating a metaphor. When we attribute the qualities of one thing to another, we are creating a metaphor. So like, she was as bright as the sun is creating a metaphor of a woman and the sun together. Modernists tend to minimize metaphoric meaning in favor of aesthetic meaning. So formal, self-referential, referring to other works of art. Again, think about non-objective artwork. Postmodernists often refer directly to events outside of art itself and explicitly use metaphors to do so. Do-Ho Suh is a great example. He's a Korean artist. This is a piece called Someone from 2001. It's so awesome. In Korea, every person in the society spends 2 years in the army. That's part of the deal. You live in Korea, you're going to be in the army for 2 years. So what he's done is he's taken the dog tags and created this metaphor of the entire Korean society by creating this. I don't know what the name of the garment is. It's not a kimono. Do you know? Okay. That's okay. You had your hand up, so I thought you were going to say something.
In the experiment, you actually draw. There's like the red and the black card.
Mm-hmm.
But you draw the black card, you stay home.
Oh, really?
And then you draw the red card, which is sort of like.
Interesting. So there's a drawing.
Yeah, it's about
Interesting. So that's a big deal. So this is an artwork that's talking about society acting as one, all the collective members of it creating this sort of body.
Is that taking up the entire room, or is
Yeah.
that just a loop?
No, it's the
so
whole
you can
room.
go inside?
I don't, you know what, I think you probably could because of where the photo was taken from. Somebody had to be standing on the wooden floor. This is the only image I've ever seen of the piece, so I haven't seen another vantage point to see whether somebody would have access to it or whether that was the artist's photograph, but I imagine that you might be able to. And the inside of it's mirrored. So when you go inside, then yourself is reflected back at you by this garment that's all made out of dog tags.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So this whole piece is a metaphor for, Korean society and some of the things going on there. Another adapting literary devices to visual art is the use of irony and parody. And again, Guerrilla Girls are just so good at it that I can't use anybody else. Using words and images to convey the opposite of what they say and show can be done using irony, but it is challenging to use in a way that lets the viewer know what the work is for and against without being overly didactic and preachy. It's really tricky. You've got to find the fine line. This is hilarious if you know who Gloria Steinem, Flo Kennedy, and Bella Abzug are. Then you think this is the funniest thing you've ever seen. If you have no idea who those people are, it doesn't mean anything to you.
It's pretty funny without knowing who they are.
Okay. Gloria Steinem, Flo Kennedy, and Bella Abzug were three of the women who were most influential in first wave feminism.
Yeah,
Gloria Steinem was the first editor of Ms. Magazine, for instance, that was trying very hard to counteract sexualized depictions of women. And they would call out advertisements.
What thinks of this?
Oh, this is totally, but the whole point is that this is a piece by the Guerrilla Girls talking about how even feminism itself has started to become co-opted and calling it out. And saying, hey, you guys are forgetting what's going on here. So it's a mockery, it's a parody. I just think it's hilarious, actually. I think it's super funny.
A major Hollywood studio. Read the top.
Yeah, exactly. Any major Hollywood,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
exactly. And I think the whole point of this is that even since the 1970s when feminism first happened, this is how women are being depicted. You see what I mean? Like, you've come a long way, baby? Not really. So that's parody or irony. Okay, and that's postmodernism. Interesting, I hope? Awesome. Okay.
think I knocked out. I think I have something I could be.
These are, there's a lot here. So it's, and a lot of it's really, really like, this is kind of like a ton of theory in a really small nutshell. So if you didn't catch it all, don't feel bad. Because I've done a lot of studying on this, and it still took me a while to get it. So let's see. Let's go on to the next. Do you guys want a little break?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me try to get out of this screenium capture.